Thank you very much, Rabbi Zakatinsky, for that beautiful introduction. I had the schus of being in Brooklyn with the rabbi who is in charge, and we went to 4 shuls over the course of the Shabbos, speaking to very large crowds about Project Inspire. And he said to me, you could now do this for the next 10 Shabbosim and never repeat the same shuls, because there's so much going on now in Lakewood. But anyway, which is apparently where everybody moved to. But anyway, but back then, this is an old story, so to be able to go around. I first and foremost want to thank Rabbi Friedman, who just keeps inviting me back in spite of all the evidence to the contrary. And he always says to me, take as much time as you want. And then he comes in and goes, no, stop, no. So I said, how much time do I have? And he told me. I said, are you sure? I said, yeah. I said, are you going to start waving in the middle and telling me to stop? He goes, yeah. I said, okay, just so we have that established. And of course, I would like to begin, as I always do on my podcast, whether you're watching with Torah Anytime, or wherever you watch or listen to your podcasts, but I'm not going to say that now because there is no other place to get this except on Torah Anytime. Torah Anytime, I have the schus to be one of the top people on Torah Anytime. Thank you. And I can't beat out this guy, Malach. He speaks in Yiddish. I don't know what to do. But anyway, I'm thinking of doing my podcast in Yiddish and see if that helps. But it is interesting because, somebody came over to me, and, they said, oh, we really like watching, your videos. So I said, you mean my podcast? He goes, no, Rabbi Siddur. I'm a cartoon character, for those of you who are not aware. Even before I was a cartoon character, But Torah Live turned me into a character called Rabbi Siddur. And, so these little kids came over and they said, oh, we all watch you. I said, Rabbi Siddur? He says, no, the podcast. My parents watch Rabbi Siddur. So, Olam hafuch ra'isi. The world is upside down. And isn't that true? And so I would like to begin, I would like to close the convention the same way I began it. The 3rd floor, don't you know I just had stents put in? No, that's not, that was before the convention started. I said, welcome to the Project Inspire convention. And I will repeat what I said at that time. I said, Project Inspire has a mission. This mission was started by Reb Noach Weinberg, which is that if I can reach 100 non-frum people, I reached 100 people. If I reached 100 frum people, then I reached 100 times that amount, because every one of them was able to reach 100 people. And so he had it as his goal. Those were the talks that he gave in the Lakewood Yeshiva, to try to wake up the frum community. And the staff at Project Inspire has taken this dream to a level that no one could have possibly imagined. And that is their goal. However, it's not mine. My goal is completely different. I was giving a shir every other Motzi Shabbos in Har Nof. I still am, but now nobody comes. But when I was younger and happening, you know what I mean? So there was a time in my life when I was cool. But anyway, now I'm old. But I was so busy with so many other things. I had a lot of jobs. Not anymore. I lost them all through my wit and personality. But I was busy the whole day, and I was going to stop this year. And someone dragged me to Reb Moshe Shapiro. And he said to me, I appreciate that you're busy. You'll have to cut out something else. So there are 2 children of mine. I don't know where they are anymore. But he says, yeah, you, and this is what he said to me. And this has rung in my ears ever since. If you can do anything that gives people chizik today, you are mechuyev to do it. Because we are a dor that needs chizik. This is what he said to me years ago. And he once said pshat in a Gemara in Gittin that we all know. It's one of the Tisha B'Av Gemaras. That Titus takes his sword and sticks it into the paroches and blood comes out. An unbelievable nace. And he says, I killed the God of Israel. And so he says, why would he be zayche to such a nace? And he says, the Gra says that obviously if there was a nace, it wasn't for Titus, it was for us. The miracle was to teach us, now listen to this because this is harsh. It's to teach us that we died at the Churban. We're dead. And says the Gra, we've just been rotting away until there's nothing left but dry bones. And when Mashiach comes, it's going to have to be a Tchias HaMesim, because we're dead. I heard Rav Pinkus on a tape 30 years ago, so I don't know when he gave the shir, but I heard it 30 years ago. And he told the story of the Chassam Sofer on Erev Tisha B'Av, where he would think about the Churban and he would cry, and he'd fill up a bowl with tears, and at the Sudam HaSekes he would dip his bread in it. And Rav Pinkus said, if I went around all of Yerushalayim and Bnei Brak this Tisha B'Av, would I get a half a cup of tears? And so we don't know what anything means anymore. What's Tisha B'Av? Tisha B'Av today is the day of videos. You know, every organization puts out a video and people sit home and they watch videos, because how are we supposed to relate to it? I'll never forget when I got married over 40 years ago. There is probably no more poignant moment in your life than when you're going down to the bedek and you haven't seen your wife for a whole week and you're seeing her, you're about to get married. Maybe the only other moment that's as poignant is when you walk your own children down the chuppah. But you're going there, and it's so poignant. You don't need to say anything. Today, you have to do a shtick. Guy brings a little rose, does a little dance, has to do something, because what's real doesn't have enough meaning anymore. You know, you buy one of these books on tefillah when you're saying Shemona Esrei, you know, and you're sitting there saying Shemona Esrei, reading a book, you know, a couple of pages, read another couple of pages, atah, you know, and you keep reading, you know, atah, because we don't know how to do it. There was a letter to the editor written by this seminary girl who was back in America. And she said, you know, when I was in seminary, I had such an unbelievable Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We spent a whole month of Elul preparing. We were learning Pachad Yitzchak. We were learning Chaim Shmulevitz. It was unbelievable. And now I'm back, and I've got a job, and I'm going into Yom Neroyim, and I'm not prepared. What am I going to do? I go to shul, and I see these alta bubbas with their old machzorim, and they're crying. And I said, they never saw a Pachad Yitzchak. They never saw Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, but they had something real on the inside. And now it's so hard for us. And this is what I said at the beginning in my opening talk, and I repeat it now at the end. There is no event in the Jewish world more important than Project Inspire, because the people who come here walk away with their lives changed. Now, Mitzvah Hashem, that will inspire us to go out and change other people's lives. But the chizik that we get from I'm talking about myself. It's Project Inspire. We walk away inspired. What are people doing up at 1 o'clock in the morning on a Friday night listening to me and a bunch of other... Oh, by the way, I have a note here I was asked to read. Please mention me, Rav Gav. Anyway... Me and some other rabbis, it's not important who, but to be able to see a room full of people, to see a Havdalah like that was going on, all of these things that are happening, it's because we want that chiyas, we want to come back to life, we need that chizik. So Rav Moshe said to me, anybody who can give chizik today, we're mechuyev, and no one in Klal Yisrael gives chizik like Project Inspire. And that's why whatever we're going to do out there comes from us. I used to teach in a rabbinical training program, and I used to say, the hardest question to answer is the question that you yourself are stuck on. So I would tell these rabbis, I said, in your heart of hearts, if you are a male chauvinist, don't answer women issues questions, because they'll know that you're a phony. You understand? You have to answer the question for yourself. If you're not secure, then everybody else will know it. So the starker we are, the greater is our ability to go out there and have an impact on Klal Yisrael. And this is the end. We're in the end game. Yeah? Everyone knows it. You can feel it. A friend of mine took his Talmidim to see Rav Chaim Kanievsky 5 years ago. And they said, one of the boys said, Rebbe, is Mashiach coming? He says, coming? He's outside knocking on the door. That was 5 years ago. It's everything is so close. We feel it. You look at the world today, and it doesn't make any sense. What a great title, Project Inspire on the front lines. Because we're not just on the front lines of Kiryat, we're on the front lines everywhere. That's Klal Yisrael who's fighting over there. My son-in-law, who unfortunately is in a very tough division in the Israeli army, his job is to collect people who never, get killed in battle. So he spent the first part going from village to village collecting the people who were murdered. And he says, in a way it's worse because you're on the battlefield, okay, you expect casualties. But you walk into a house and you see it set for Shabbos and you see everything there and the devastation. The difference is just devastating. And he said, his division was the one that had to clean out Al Shifa Hospital. He's from Georgia, so he's pretty, an even keel, People from down south, they're like very sedate, I remember when I used to go in NCSY, one of the kids from Southern Region would come over and it took him like 2 minutes to say hello. Hi, Rabbi Orlofsky. I said, I need a shorter name. I just can't, this is taking too much time, I'm a New Yorker. I would have already read the New York Times by now, you know what I mean? The amount of time it took him to say hello, So he's very sedate, but I never heard him like this. He says, imagine the worst thing you can imagine, then double it by 10, and then double that by 100, So we're with them. And I cannot stress this enough. You do not appreciate your own power. And that is one of the biggest problems that we have. You don't appreciate your own power. The Yetzer Hara is very busy. He's very busy. The Gemara says he's the Satan, he's the Yetzer Hara, he's the Malach HaMoves, right? As the Yetzer Hara, he tempts you. As the Satan, he prosecutes you. And as the Malach HaMoves, he carries out the sentence. He's also the Malach Shel Esav. He's very busy. He's not running around telling you, say some Lashon Hara, forget to make a bracha. No. His job is much more important. He wants to convince you that you don't matter. That's his biggest job, his greatest weapon. I had a girl in seminary, second year. She says to me, we get these lists of people to daven for, and I daven for them. Sometimes they get better, sometimes they die. Has nothing to do with me. She's sure of it. So why should I daven? Think HaKadosh Baruch Hu cares? You think it makes a difference if I daven, if I make a bracha, if I do something? Who am I? More than anything, the Yetzer Hara wants to make you believe that you don't matter. Henrik Leibowitz, the Rosh Yeshiva of Chavetz Chaim, had a tremendous insight. We blow one last tekiah on Rosh Hashanah. Why? Ma'arviv is a Satan. He hears that and he thinks it's the shofar of Mashiach. And he said, 2,000 years he's falling for the same trick? Buy a machzor. Look it up, say, oh, they do this all the time. And he said so poignantly, the Yetzer Hara is not stupid, we are. Because we don't know how close we are at that moment to turning it into the shofar of Mashiach. But we don't appreciate it. I went to Chavetz Chaim in 1975. Moshe Chait was the Shiva, and I never forgot. He told this story. He says, when I was a little boy, I went to the zoo, and the lion roared, and I got frightened. And I said to the zookeeper, can he break out of that cage? And the zookeeper said, yes, but don't worry, he doesn't know it. And he looked around the room and said, that's every one of us. The reason you don't believe that you can change the world is only because the Satan tells you it. If you understood, I'll never forget, Rabbi Shade said this once. He says, you hear people say, what do you want from me? I'm only human. Only human? That means you're greater than the Malachim. It means you have a neshama that's all the way up, the Elyonim. What do you mean you're only human? You understand the power that you have? My friend, Victor Fried, came to see me, and he says, I don't know, I feel like in America, everyone's gotten used to it. Okay, it's human nature. Human nature. I remember after 9/11, it was either Newsweek or Time, they took quotes from everybody they considered to be a major leader. And one of them they quoted was the Novominsker Rebbe, who I had the schus of hearing once at a Project Inspire convention. And he said, after 9/11, the world will never be the same. That November, I was speaking in a girls' high school, and I said, what should I speak about? I said, anything except 9/11. People were tired of hearing about it. I said, the world was a different place for 2 months, and now everything's back the way it was. So he said to me, I don't know, at the beginning, everybody was so moved, and now you see, people are walking out for the Tehillim, you know, they're not saying it like we're in trouble. And we have a group of soldiers that went into a booby-trapped building. 2 of them got killed. You know, 3 of them got killed. You know, and these are our children. So why aren't we doing it? Only one reason. We don't believe it makes a difference. Because you don't think when you say that Kapitel Tehillim, you stopped a bullet. When my son-in-law went into the army, they called him up on Simchas Torah. They didn't have enough flak jackets. They were sending him into battle without bulletproof vests, which I should point out is pretty important when you're in a shooting situation. So we started a group. We raised money to buy his people flak jackets that they should be able to have. Unbelievable. To be able to go in on this. So what saved people when that bullet shoots off? Your Kapitel Tehillim. What stopped that bomb from going off? Your Kapitel Tehillim. But you don't appreciate it because you don't think it makes a difference. Like this girl said to me. We get a list of people for daven for, and sometimes they get better, and sometimes they die, and it has nothing to do with us. There are times when I get up to speak, and when you're a speaker from community, you can't help but become a social critic. It's part of the job. You point out the problems. And people say, why isn't anybody doing anything? I said, I am. If I have to save the world by myself, I will. If you want to help me, there'll be 2 of us. You understand? Baruch Hashem, this Project Inspire. I don't have to do so much anymore. You know what I mean? But I can't save the world? Why not? Because I'm just an average guy? So what? Somebody came to my Motzi Shabbos shir, and he says to me, I love coming to your shiurim because you're so ordinary, and I feel like if you could do it, anyone can. And I appreciated that because I know where it was coming from. You meet these unbelievably inspirational people, and I'm just like, well, I'm out. You know what I mean? I'm not starting Torah any time, and I'm not starting any major organization, and I'm not doing any of that kind of stuff, you know? But I can do what I can do. And if everybody does what they can do, we can change the world. And my tefillas can't change it. I'm gonna point out something that's uncomfortable to hear. A little uncomfortable. I used to ask from audiences, do you think Hashem loves you? So nobody could say yes. But Baruch Hashem, Project Inspire has been around long enough, so we know the right answer. Do you think Hashem loves you? Yes, Hashem loves me. Do you think he likes you? Do you think he's impressed with you? I haven't met one from Jew yet who can say yet. And I'm sitting in a room full of people who are shomer Torah and mitzvahs after 2,000 years of gullus, who are dedicated to everything that goes into what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to do. And you took a weekend that you paid money for to come to a hotel and listen to speaker after speaker day and night. And you think you're not the most important people at Klal Yisrael? You think you're not the most impressive people that there are? You think you're not the ones who are going to be Mashiach? Only because the Yetzer Hara tells you that. You're nothing. In the eyes of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, there is no group in Klal Yisrael more important than the people in this room right now who spent this Shabbos together. And I say that from my heart, because anyone who knows me knows I don't like to say nice things. Is it? But I mamish believe it. And that's the scary part. We need you. The soldiers on the front line need you at Tfilas. Those Jews are waiting for you. I was speaking once when I was in NCSY at a leadership Shabbaton. And I said, there are kids who become frum, and then they become like Moranos. Like they keep Judaism secret in their house, and when they go to school, they don't let anyone know, Hey, you want to go out Friday night? Nah, my family's got something. You know what I mean? I got to study for a test. They make excuses. And I said, but all you guys are great. You're going to get up to Shemayim. And you'll get on the express line, of course, because you're the tzaddikim, And you'll pass some kid you knew in high school. And he grabs you by your celestial sleeve. And he says, you knew about all this? Torah and HaKadosh Baruch Hu and all this stuff? He says, yeah. He says, that's what you were doing all those Friday nights? He says, yeah. He says, why didn't you tell me about it? I thought you'd laugh at me. I thought you'd make fun of me. And the kid says, maybe I would have. Maybe I would have. And maybe I would have come. And maybe I would be from today. And maybe I would have a family. I can't say for sure, but wasn't I worth the risk? What would have been the worst thing? I would have said, get away from me, you idiot. Rejection? Okay, so you're back in Shidduchim. What's the big deal? Yeah, it's okay. But look at, I bought myself a Mega Millions because it was 250 million. The Powerball was only 100 million. It wasn't worth my time. Anyway, if I'm going to lose, I want to lose a lot. Anyway, and I'm always surprised when I lose. I don't know why. I'm pretty sure Kadosh Baruch Hu knows that it's a very difficult nisayon to be very wealthy, and he doesn't think I can handle it. And I've really tried to convince him that I'm ready, but he doesn't seem to think so, But I always buy it. I'm spending $2 on a chance that I'm more likely to get hit by lightning than I am of winning this thing, and I'm spending $2. So could you imagine I go to a frum person and I say, hey, would you like to come for your Shabbos? Hey, would you like to, can I send you a Shalach Manas from Project Inspire? Hey, would you be interested in having a conversation about this or about that? What are the odds? Better than winning the lottery. Trust me. I know because I've done both. And I've spoken to people who became frum and I never won the lottery. The odds are better, but it's because you hear that voice in your head saying, you're no good, no one cares about you. Matti Berger tells a story where he goes to this secular businessman and he says, anytime I see one of your religious Jews, I always hear the same thing saying, Harry, you're no good. Harry, you're no good. He says, Harry, do you hear that voice now? He says, yeah. He says, well, there's only 2 of us in the room and I'm not talking. That voice comes in from yourself. And the Satan says, you're nothing. You're nobody. There's one person who can change the world. I had a Rebbe, Rosh Yeshiva of mine, who said to one of the people I was working for, he goes, is Orlofsky effective? He says, yeah. He goes, I never thought he'd amount to anything. Now, again, I understand. I have dyslexia and I have EDD and I have focusing problems and I have retention problems and I have an obnoxious personality. And it makes sense that I never would have done anything. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, you have something to do in this world if you want to. Do you think there's anybody in this room who doesn't have the ability to change the world and do great things? Of course you can. But The Satan tells you, no one wants to hear your tefillas, nobody wants to hear your Torah, nobody wants to come to your house, nobody wants to answer your phone. So that's the ADD. Anyway, so I embrace these things. I mean, they're my limitations. I had a bumper sticker that said, "Dyslexics untie." Anyway, that's a subtle one. Take your time. Anyway, I do remedial humor also, so I don't have to worry about it. Anyway, all this is by way of introduction to our topic. Because I'm supposed to speak about Purim. Let's speak about Purim. And that works out very well, because it's an olam hafuch. The whole time, you're going through the Purim story, and you're sure the Jewish people are going to all get wiped out. Completely destroyed. And as Rabbi Shapiro pointed out once, anything that's signed with the king's ring can never be undone, which means the Gezerah Mavis is still on us. There is a death sentence, a sword of Damocles hanging over the Jewish people. It's never been removed. The only difference is there was another decree that says we can fight back. So you're reading this story, and suddenly at the end, everything turns around. It's not a happy ending. Esther can never go back to her husband. She remains married to this anti-Semite who the Gemara says hated the Jews more than Haman did. You know, the Beis Hamikdash still isn't being rebuilt. Achashverosh still wouldn't allow it. So it's not exactly the happiest of endings. But we didn't get killed, which, by the way, is a very good thing. I'm going to go on record with that. But there was nothing you could expect. That's why it's interesting. Sukkot is Zman Simchasenu, but Purim is the holiday of laughter. When do you laugh? When it's unexpected. You always laugh on the unexpected. You don't laugh on what's expected. A guy walks into a bar, orders a drink. Not very funny. A guy walks into a bar, says ouch. Also not very funny, but at least it's a joke, because you didn't realize he walked into an actual bar. You thought that he walked into the bar, right? Bar, right? And that's every joke. Every joke is based on unexpected. That's what makes you laugh, is that I didn't see that coming. Woody Allen says, when I was growing up, I had to wear my cousin's hand-me-downs, and it was embarrassing because she wasn't my size. Okay. It's unexpected. You don't see it coming. You know? That's what every joke is based, the base of every joke. Right? That's why, as Rabbi Feldheim pointed out, since his name is Yitzchak, Yitzchak means laughter. Now let's be fair. There's probably not a less funny guy in all of Tanakh than Yitzchak. Yeah? In every poll, he's voted the least funny of the Avos. And you can check this. Yeah? Why is his name laughter? Because he lived in Din. You can't live in Din. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to create the world in Din. He saw it couldn't stand. He mixed in Rachamim. Yitzchak's in Din. That's funny. Not if you're in Din and you can't handle it, but for Yitzchak it was funny. And that's why Az Yamale Schayk Pinu. Our mouths will be filled with laughter when Mashiach comes. There will be nothing funnier than Mashiach coming. It's hard for us to even imagine it in the situation we're in. But imagine Mashiach actually comes, and with modern communication, everyone knows it all around the world. And they say, okay, we cut to the Vatican. Pope, I was wrong. What? I was wrong. Take off the white one, put on a black one. Okay, done. Go to Mecca. We were wrong. We were all wrong. Forget about the rock. You know, we were wrong. You know, go to Washington, and say, we want to congratulate the Jewish people on turning out to be right this entire time. We're sending the Army Corps of Engineers to build housing, and every plane is now being diverted directly to Israel to take all of our Jewish brethren to Israel, and do me a favor and bring a korban for me. We're going to laugh the hardest because we don't expect it. We don't see it. As many a frum Jew has said to me, I know there's a God, I don't believe it. Because it's hard. Imagine you're davening, Baruch Atah, and there he is. oh my God, that's you? He says, yeah, who'd you think you were davening to? Nobody. I didn't know you were really there. But it's suddenly going to be so obvious. I burst out laughing. How do we get there? Says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, Kimu v'kiblu. There was a greater Kabbalah HaTorah on Purim than there was at Har Sinai. Astounding. Har Sinai, they were on this prophetic level. They heard HaKadosh Baruch Hu speak. They saw the sounds and they heard the sights. It was otherworldly. It was unbelievable. Purim was a political drama that took place. This one this one that, prime minister switched, that. And that led to a greater Kabbalah HaTorah, says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz. V'yachanu b'midbar, v'yichan sham ke'ish echad b'lev echad. We became one people. Says the Or Chaim HaKadosh, Achdus is a prerequisite for Kabbalah HaTorah. Which means, says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, that if there was a greater Kabbalah HaTorah on Purim, it's because there was a greater Achdus. I was at a chasna once with Mati Berger, and the question came up. Abraham was davening, say 50 Jews, 40 Jews, 30 Jews, 20 Jews, 10 Jews. Yeah? Couldn't save anybody. And Lot says, listen, Soya is not so bad. Leave this place alone. I'll go to that city. So Rav Noach Weinberg asked, he said, how is it that Avram couldn't save anything and Lot saved Soya? So he says, because people who are in that world say, listen, I may not be religious, but I'm more religious than him. I know Avram is looking for tzaddikim. I'm looking for the better rishoyim. I can find those. That's what he said over. And Mati said, I have a different answer. I don't know who's a tzaddik. I don't know who's a rasha, but I know I'm tired. And therefore, I can't go so far. So save this town. Because the best way that we are effective is by self-interest. Worry about yourself. Don't be a martyr. Save Klal Yisrael because it's better for you. In the words of General Patton, I'm not looking for people to die for their country. You don't win wars by dying for your country. You win wars by making the other guy die for his country. And so when we understand that when we save Klal Yisrael, it's better for us, there's a Rashi in B'chuk Kosai. It says if you keep the Torah, so it says, the pasuk says, 5 of you will chase 100, and 100 of you will chase 10,000. So it says Rashi, the cheshbon's off. If 5 of you are chasing 20, that means each one of you, if 5 of you chase 100, each one of you is chasing 20 of the enemy. But if 100 of you chase 10,000, each one of you is chasing 100 of the enemy. And he says, Eino daima, ma'utanas ha'oisinas ha'torah le'meruban ha'oisinas ha'torah. That means forget about everybody else out there in the world. You! If Klal Yisrael is not keeping the Torah, only a miyat, you're at 20% capacity. And if you get everybody to keep the Torah, as Rabbi Samson said, not most of them, all of them, you get everybody in, you'll be at 100% capacity. Do it for yourself. Do it out of self-interest. Do it because, as we saw on Purim, Kimu v'kiblu, when we're all together, we will reach a higher level of achdus. We ourselves will be greater. My friends, this Shabbos is up in Shemayim, one of the most important dates that HaKadosh Baruch Hu's got on his calendar. Because he says, I'm bringing together an enormous amount of frum Jews, and I'm giving them chizik. And we're going to go home. I speak for myself, and I'm sure many others. We're going to go home from this Shabbos. And our davening will be different, and our learning will be different. And our avodas to Hashem will be different for ourselves. And the stronger we are for ourselves, the more we will get that courage to say, when I daven, I'm saving lives. When I do things, I'm the one who's going to be metaking the world and bring Mashiach. And that will give us the strength to go over to a fellow Jew and say, I'll take a chance. Baby, I could touch your life. And there are many, many people in this room who could tell you, I tried it and it works. It's unbelievable how many times I've just tried to have a conversation with somebody and you don't know. So I was running NCSY in Long Island, and I wanted to stay and learn. I got married. I took off a year, stayed and learned. I wanted to sit and learn. And I went to Scheinberg. I was there for half an hour. He says how important Klal Yisrael is, how important learning Torah is, how important, back and forth for half an hour. And finally he said to me, you have to go back. So Rabbi Chait, because I was learning Chavetz Chaim, he says, look, I can't pass in the Shaila because I really want to, I want you to stay. So now we'll go to Rebbe Yoshev. Rebbe Yoshev, I was in and out in 3 minutes. He says, mitzvah efshar piacherim. If not, efshar, then you have to do it. He says, you have to go back. Okay. So that Purim, we were having the Suda in Yeshiva, and they had just come out with kosher French wine. Now we take it for granted that there's nice kosher wine. When I was growing up, there was only one wine, extra heavy Malaga. Came in a gallon jug. You would take a knife, cut out a piece, put it in your cup. Rabbi Yehuda said, I would drink the Arbakosas and have a headache till Shavuos. It was extra heavy Malaga, So they came out with these French wines that were kosher that you could drink. And I had never drunk wine in my life, and I didn't realize that I had drunk more than I was able to handle. And Rabbi Knarek, the mashgiach, calls me over because apparently I had tears rolling down my cheeks. And he says, Reb David, what's the matter? And I said, why do I have to go back? He says, you're lucky. Usually Gedolei Torah don't answer questions like this. They tell you, you decide. You're lucky. Two Gedolei Torah told you this is what you're supposed to do. And I said, just because I can help other people, why can't I take care of myself? And he says to me, Reb David, I'll tell you a story. Now, I know this story. I used to tell it over when I was in NCSY. But I sat there very patiently till he finished. And he says to me, at the Aguda Convention in 1929, the Chavetz Chaim said, everybody has to go out and do Kiruv, 1929 in Europe. And later in the convention, he asked if he could speak again. Okay, the Chavetz Chaim wants to speak. So you tell Rabbi Chaim Oizer, please step aside, tell the Or Sameach, we'll get to you later, He gets up, he says, I heard people saying the Chavetz Chaim doesn't mean me. I'm not from enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough. He says, so I'll give you a mashal. There was a nobleman who had a very large tract of land with many villages, and he was going around to the villages, and he comes to one village, he drinks the water, he spits it out, he says, it's sandy. He says, well, that's how the water is here. He says, well, you can't use it. So he says, I'm making an edict, you have to boil the water here before you use it. Fine. Weeks later, one night he's looking out, he sees a fire in the distance. He gets into his carriage, he runs down, and the village is burning down. And he says, why don't you put out the fire? He says, we're waiting for the water to boil. And the nobleman said, that's for drinking, that's for washing. But when there's a fire, you take whatever water there is and you throw it on. I knew the story already. I had my rejoinder waiting as he was talking. And I said, but Rebbe, the water is still not fit to drink. But Knarek escaped with the mir out of Europe. He spoke with a strong Yiddish accent. And he looks at me and he says, Reb David, halavai, we just put out the fire. My friends, halavai, we just put out the fire. Thank you very much.